on down the broken road. I call on you to help me carry the load. Oh Lord, you never let me down.
Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Hello and welcome to the Broken Road Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today, the title of the episode is Holding Space. And today I am joined by Logan Ashlock.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
So just been kind of making the rounds through Day Neuro, inviting people out.
Yeah.
And you and I were visiting one day, and I thought it'd be awesome to have you here.
It's an honor. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you were always seemed calm. I know there's a lot of stuff going on up there.
I'm glad.
You know, you kind of have that persona about you. Whether that was what was really going on internally, I don't know. But I can tell you, for me, it was calming when you were coming around.
Well,
so, I guess let's just get started and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do, what your degree's in, and how you ended up at Day Neuro. Where we at?
Yeah. So I've been a speech therapist for 8 years, I think, going on now, which is crazy because I still feel 16 sometimes.
Right.
But I went to Texas Tech for both my undergraduate and graduate degrees. And my degree is in speech language pathology for my master's degree. So I kind of didn't know what aspect I wanted to take in speech therapy, but ended up leaning towards adults kind of like last minute in my school. I initially kind of wanted to do pediatrics, like that's what I started speech therapy for, was pediatrics. The 5 years I was in school, I was like pediatrics, and that's really there's a large need for that as well, right? Yes, yeah. But hugely different than
Absolutely.
Adults. And so, which Texas Tech, the way their program is set up, you learn about both peds and adults. I know some programs you kind of have to choose a route. But so lucky for me, I was getting both aspects, both peds and adults. And then my last rotation was an adult placement. And, like a month or two before graduation, I was like, this is what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And completely kind of changed everything I had planned, and started applying for adult jobs. And so that's where I started out, was actually in the nursing home. Mm-hmm. So a SNF is what we called it, skilled nursing facility. So I worked there for about 3 years, and while I was doing that, I started doing PRN, or like as needed work, both in acute care, and then I worked part-time in inpatient rehab that also had a long-term acute care attached. So I got like a whole bunch of experience in all the settings within like a few years of being a speech therapist.
That's amazing.
Yes.
You actually got to see a lot and learned a lot really quick.
Yes, for sure. I got thrown into everything, which was great for like the development of me being a speech therapist, because I kind of got to see like people from right when they're brought in after their injury to then where I am now at Day Neuro, where I've been the last, I think, 5 years now.
Right.
Where it's, farther post-injury. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my journey as a speech therapist up to this point, but I'm definitely loving where I am now.
Right. Well, that was what I was going to ask. So of all the places you've been at, obviously you've been there for a while. How many years, or how long have you been at Day Neuro there with Baylor?
Yep. So this is my 5th year. December was 5 years. So my first 3 years was I was in skilled nursing while doing a bunch of other things. I didn't have kids, newly married, just living, trying to make all the money, help all the people. Right. So now I've definitely slowed down now that I'm a mom and a wife. And just now Day Neuro is my main focus. So.
Right. Well, obviously there's something special about that, because I've spoke with a lot of you now, and it seems like once you're there in that setting at that particular Day Neuro, for sure that you're kind of there for a while.
It's hard to leave, that's for sure.
There's definitely a culture that gets built there, and that's really neat. It surprises me that there's not more Day Neuros spread out through not only Texas but the United States.
Yes.
It's really kind of it's a rarity. I've come to find out.
Yes. I always tell the story of when I was working in inpatient. my patient was getting discharged to like a day neuro type place. And he was asking me about it. And I was like, honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I literally like had my computer and was Googling the place he was going, which was a day neuro. Because yes, in school, like they teach you about it, but I don't feel like it's one of like the main settings you learn about. So even as a working professional, like I'll meet physical therapists, other speech therapists, and tell them like, oh, I work in day neuro. And they're like, what is that exactly? So there's definitely a big education piece missing.
Yeah, so I actually have never really asked anybody, and since we're kind of, I feel like you're leading into that. It wasn't on my notes, but can you kind of describe for people that don't know more what day neuro, what separates that? I kind of got stumbled there when I was saying it, but what makes day neuro what it is?
Yeah, so
separation.
It's an intensive day program. So patients have left the hospital. They are now living at home, and they come to us for 6 hours a day, hopefully 5 days a week. That's not always the case, just depending on like personal or financial insurance issues. So for us, it has to be a neurological diagnosis, and it can't be degenerative. So we get most of our population being stroke, brain injury, something like that. But we don't take like Parkinson's or ALS or something like that. Yes. So nothing degenerative. But it's just a very intensive program. And like you said, there's just not very many of them. So I think that's why people just don't really know what it is.
And when people come into that program, they have to be selected. From what I've understood, there are some things that you're looking for in a patient that's coming down there, and one of those things I know for sure is like somebody that's motivated to get better, or has a want to, and has a they have goals.
Yes, that's a big thing.
I'm seeing more often than not that that's kind of a two-sided coin there too. After injury like brain injury or any of those injuries, it can go one way or the other, and it really it's kind of a gentle balance, I think, with people in general of wanting to set goals or wanting to just give up. So that place is super special to me, and I think what y'all do there is great. So thank you for explaining kind of more what that is, because I don't think people really understand that there is even a difference between that and just a standard outpatient facility, which they still do great work too. And when I left day neuro, I went to an outpatient setting as well, still with Baylor, which I was taken very good care of there too, but it wasn't as intense, and it's just different. I don't know. That's a whole different program. Yeah. It's kind of like being an Olympian on another level. When you're going up there, you're going to sweat. You're going to work.
6 hours a day, workout, mental work, physical work. I mean, it's not, not easy. Limits. That's for sure.
Yeah. So another thing that kind of came up is, why are so many of you from Texas Tech? Did y'all just flock there?
Yes, we're a cult. Wreck 'em. Right. Yeah, well, I know your speech therapist upstairs is a big Red Raider, and then there's me and a couple others for sure. We're proud. We make it known where we're from.
So the title of today's episode was Holding Space. Chose that because I think I started with this, but I felt like you were kind of a calm person, seemed collected when you go through that area there in day neuro. And for me, there was times when I was very stressed, just in general from my experience and what I was going through, and the thought of what's my tomorrow going to be like, and how much am I going to gain back? But you and I weren't necessarily on the same team. I heard your name a lot up there. But we don't necessarily have to go there.
We can talk about it.
Okay, well. So I guess this would be a good time to say that I kept hearing about this Logan dude. So I asked Jeremy, I was like, who's this guy Logan everybody keeps talking about? It's like,
I think it's important to throw out that me and you had talked dozens of times up to this point. So it wasn't like you were just seeing me from a distance. We had communicated.
Yeah. Well, that's what a stroke and brain damage will do for you. So I was very embarrassed anyways whenever he said, well, let me introduce you again to Logan. So you're just such a sweet person up there. So back to the holding space. I feel like you're that kind of person, and you may feel different, but I feel like that's a big part of what you do is being able to just sit, listen, be part of somebody's struggle, and help them in that way too, in silence, and being a SLP, a speech language pathologist, speech therapist. There's a lot of emotion involved in that. Y'all just do so much more than I would have ever imagined. I didn't understand that. So,
for sure.
Anyways, what is that like for you?
I mean, the concept of holding space, just creating kind of this metaphorical, area to let people be. And I think in day neuro specifically, because it's kind of the first time that, a patient's not in the hospital, they've gotten home, and it kind of all hits of like, this is my life. And I know like I'm speaking when you're the one who has experienced this, so stop me if this is not how you felt. But we see it a lot of, everything kind of comes crashing down at once because, when you're in the hospital, in rehab, it's not your familiar environment, but it's when you walk through your own doors and you see all the things you were doing. I think that's why we get a lot of these emotions when people come to day neuro, is because it all does hit home. As far as kind of what life may look like and how it is different. So it really is kind of our job and our response to when people start telling us about everything they've been through, just kind of allowing them to process those emotions out loud. And it's such a huge part of the recovery journey. But just listening and not always needing to provide an answer. Or I talk a lot to my students that I take that are with me for speech therapy about kind of avoiding that toxic positivity of, oh, you're going to be okay. Everything's fine. And I think those are easy fillers when you are holding space, instead of just, silence goes a long way of just letting a person talk. So.
Yeah, and I felt that from you. I mean, that's just, that seems like that flows pretty easily from your personality to be able to be in there in that area and give somebody that space that they need at that time. Because I know I think you hit the nail on the head. I try to tell people when I'm speaking with them in inpatient that you feel like you really want to go home. I mean, it's like, man, I want to get to my own environment. I want to get around my stuff. And I'm tired of all these people bugging me. But the reality of it is, and I hope that people in inpatient can even watch this or listen to this. They may not be able to see even right now, but they can hear, hopefully. That when you get home is kind of when it really hits you. You realize, like, when all those people that are bugging you while you're in inpatient, you're in critical care, and all of those things, those are people taking care of you. And I think you get used to that, even though it seems like forever. It's really not that long of a time before you're into the next session or somebody's switching. And when you get home, then you realize all that help you had, and you don't have that anymore. And then the deficits that you're holding or have come crashing down on you. I think that's a very good way to describe that. Yeah. It's tough. So, I try to let people know when they're an inpatient and I'm visiting with them, I know you want to get home, but you should probably, let this process work as long as you can.
For sure.
Because it's a different story. So you're then, okay, they get maybe a day or two. It's not very long. It wasn't for me. And I'm right back up there into the mix. And I'm walking in like, I don't know, wide-eyed going, whoa, what did I sign up for here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're a little intimidating when people first walk in and see
absolutely.
all the people and all the chaos, but coordinated chaos.
Right.
But
yeah, so holding that space, I think you hit the nail, and again, hit the nail on the head as far as like that toxic positivity. You do need to be careful with that. I'm guilty of it because
I think we all are, yeah.
Well, and it's kind of how I'm built. I want things to be better.
Yeah.
And I want things to be better for people, and I think you do too. I mean, that's obviously why you do what you do. So I didn't realize when I thought of speech therapist, and a lot of people do probably think the same, I'm more think of just like, you're going to help me talk properly.
Yep.
But there's a lot more to that, right?
Yes.
So,
I feel like now in day neuro, because people have experienced maybe acute care therapy, inpatient therapy, so by the time they get to us, they're semi-familiar with like the therapy process. Whereas when I worked more in inpatient, and people were coming, maybe they hadn't had speech therapy yet, I would get it probably 7 out of 10 times. I can talk just fine, because our name, speech therapy, I mean, that's what you think, talking. And so in day neuro, we work more on a lot of those higher level cognitive skills, that maybe people don't really think that they need for just like a return to life, or don't think about needing for return to life and doing all the things. And then, I mean, that's just one area in regards to like swallowing, voice. But I mean, yes, there is the aspect of like helping people talk, but it is a lot more than just that as well.
Yeah, because you're looking at a person more as a whole as well. I mean, they are thinking, well, you're just coming in here to have me talk, but you're like checking their memory and how they're putting together things, processing,
yes,
their mental process, all that too as well, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of always how I describe it to people is like, when you're in therapy in the hospital, they're trying to get you home safely. Are you medically stable? Are you able to not have falls, hit your head when you go home? So you've checked all those boxes. Now you're with us and we are trying to get you back to life. So that's always kind of how I explain the difference when people are like, oh, I didn't get speech therapy in the hospital, or something like that of, yes, we're looking at a lot more complex things than just, can you be safe upon returning home?
Right. Yeah. So you've probably seen a lot of things.
I have.
I mean, that's 8 years in that field, right?
Yes.
That's what we said.
Yes.
That's a good amount of time in there.
Yeah.
I'm only basically 2 years out of post-stroke, and I'm not doing it day to day. I do spend a lot of time there. Can't be easy to do that day in, day out. So I guess, it's always a question, and I'm always curious, how you deal with that, and what keeps you going back, what keeps you motivated, and how do you hold it together on the tough days?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anyone in like the healthcare field, or even first responders, military, anyone who is dealing with things that maybe you don't see on a daily basis, that is life or death, you have to be able to desensitize yourself a little bit. And I don't mean that in a way where you're now cold-hearted, or you lack empathy, but to be able to get out of bed and wake up and do it all over again the next day. I feel like you have to be able to kind of separate yourself just a tad bit. And I don't think that makes me any less empathetic or able to hold space for people. But I think you have to, the way I look at it is like, it's my job to care for these people and not necessarily carry for these people. And easier said than done, I mean, because we all end up feeling things, and especially in day neuro when we get so close to y'all for how frequently we are with y'all. I mean, inevitably we do start carrying some of those heavy things. But I think just kind of keeping focus of like, what is my role in this person's trajectory, and just making sure that I'm setting myself up for that healthy aspect where I can do that.
Right, because I want to highlight that and spotlight that. It's a constant thing for me anytime that I'm interviewing somebody that's a professional in that field, whether it's a speech therapist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, any of. I mean, you can keep going on. There's still more, but those are the main modalities. You're still experiencing, even though you didn't go through that stroke, you're experiencing a lot of that stuff with the patients, with their family, and in the day neuro setting, you are there with them day in, day out, so they become like family. So I can only imagine that is very tough. And then, I mean, I experienced it. I know I've always had a level, I feel like, or have been told that I have a level of discernment, so I sometimes see things, behind the curtain. And y'all still have to kind of put on your game face, even on a tough day. And that's not just dealing with patients. That could be, I had an argument with my spouse this morning, or, my kid said something very ugly to me, and my day's already just kind of wrecked before I ever even get to this environment that can be so uplifting and such a draw on you at the same time spiritually. Yep. So, and we can go past this if you want, but I didn't ask you about your faith, but I would imagine I can feel it off you when I'm around you that you do have a faith, and you're a strong spiritual person, and that's got to play into that somehow. Yeah,
I mean, I just try to think about it as kind of, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, what is my purpose in regards to these daily interactions? In reality, I'm a small glimmer in my patient's recovery, but using kind of my purpose and faith of, what are my interactions going to mean, or how can I improve this person's quality of life, is really kind of what I think about and kind of what keeps me going from that aspect, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I think you downplay that. I've said that a couple of times too to other people as how of the importance of your role.
Yeah.
Because there's just little things, sometimes there's very small things that are said that just don't go away. I mean, the same as being a child and growing up, and that adult that told you, I try to think of something that I was told, but people are always watching how you react to a situation. Little thing. That's probably not really what I'm trying to say exactly, but I think you'd be surprised at the little things that you probably do say that stick with somebody through their recovery journey. And I don't think recovery ever stops, for the rest of your life once you've had that kind of trauma. So I hope I hope and know that you probably do a lot more than you think you do.
I hope so. But
yeah, I think you spread that way further than you could even imagine.
Yeah.
So that is super cool. I don't feel like we've really kind of touched on exactly what I haven't even yet through this podcast. I don't think there's so much that you do as an SLP. Can you kind of tell us some more about that degree, what you do, that modality?
Yeah. So with speech therapy, I know I mentioned earlier kind of the pediatric realm, and there's kind of the school-based, and then there is medical-based pediatric SLPs that work in more like the outpatients or hospitals. But for us specifically as adults, especially in day neuro, I would say probably, 70% of the cases that we work with are probably like that higher level cognitive skill, and maybe not even higher level, but just cognitive skills in general. So, we always use think about driving, how you're having to shift attention, remember where you're going. Oh, someone cuts you off. You have to quickly, yes, exactly. You have to then decide to change lanes. Oh, you took a wrong turn. Now let's problem solve. How do we get where we're going? So that's just driving, but that doesn't take into account for every other life activity we're doing, whether something may be on a more simple level, might be just, getting dressed. What cognitive skills go into the sequencing into that? And so we really take those cognitive skills and apply them. And I think one of the things that we do best at Day Neuro is creating those functional tasks. And that's one of my favorite things to challenge myself as a speech therapist. And probably what my patients hate, so to speak, is when I'm talking to you, I'm analyzing, what can we do? So, I hear you like to paint as a hobby. Great. Let's go take an outing to Hobby Lobby. We're going to grab some paint and we're going to do something.
Which is cool. That was a fun part of being up there, was doing those things, actually.
Yes. And that's one of my favorite things is, oh, you're a nurse. Okay, now you have fake patients and you're doing A, B, or C. So, we use what you say as kind of a weapon to make you do your therapy task in a functional way. And so that's one of the cool things, and we kind of have the choice and freedom in our program is that, we can take outings to the store or restaurants or whatever it may be that you did. They did a pickleball outing recently for patients.
Which we're going to be doing again pretty soon.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, a collaboration hopefully with Collage, Day Neuro, and a couple other facilities.
Yeah. So those,
that was fun, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to go, which I was sad about,
man.
which my pickleball skills are not the best sometimes,
you
you
should
know,
see
but
I'm really good at
but
it.
yeah, maybe next time I'll be able to go.
I'm not good.
But yeah, so I think that is, you know, one thing that we really work on as speech therapists in our setting specifically, is just those thinking skills.
Yeah, so I don't think that, like I said, that's another one of those things that people just don't think about, like that it involves it. So goes back and ties back into that same thing, a holding space, you know, and being able to sit there and listen to somebody and learn about them. It really, I mean, y'all do get a lot more time, but it's amazing how much you can learn about somebody in that and what really is a short amount of time.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because, you know, we'll be talking to our coworkers like, oh, you know, so-and-so told me this, or I'll just like say, oh, did you know so-and-so, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, how do you find this out? And I'm like, because I just sit there and talk to them.
Yeah.
And so, which I know we have a little more freedom compared to like PTs or OTs, because I mean, that's literally our sessions,
right?
Sitting there talking, doing things. But yeah, for sure. Just listening. And I mean, just listening, you find out so much in ways to then help the patient in return. So.
Well, I was so busy talking. I think everybody knew everything, whatever I could talk about.
We knew all the things by the time you left.
Yeah, so that's okay. I enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm still talking now.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
You know, just
it worked out.
Using it at another level. So I guess that kind of leads to the next question. You know, when you do spend that much time and you are finding and learning about somebody, what is there a certain case that you can think of that was really hard to kind of watch it develop, and maybe that time when it ended?
Yeah. So there's like a specific case I'm thinking of, but more just maybe like a specific type of case, because I mean, getting the diagnoses of like stroke and brain injury, you know, after being there for so long, you do have some, what you want to call maybe some more familiar or like repeat type of cases, so to speak.
Right.
So I feel like the ones that, there's kind of two types that I feel like are just harder for sure. And when those people, you know, completely normal functioning human, either they be a parent or, I think now having kids, the ones that have like younger kids pull at my heartstrings more, just because I can relate to that and, you know, always play the game of like, oh, well, you know, that could be me. And I think that's something important too, to kind of highlight is, which I'm not going to get on a tangent, but just real quick, a disclaimer. You know, you think of strokes, oh, that's not going to be me. And especially, you know, I'm 30. But the amount of patients I've had that are my age or younger that have had strokes is slightly terrifying, because, you know, especially before even working at Day Neuro, I'm like, you know, that's not going to be me. You know, I'm healthy, whatever, but, you know, everyone thinks that, right?
Right.
And so, you know, unfortunately, strokes don't discriminate when it comes to age,
Yeah,
which I've quickly learned.
I'm glad you
Preaching
can
to the
talk about
choir
that
here.
as much. Yeah, you can talk about that as much as you want, because
Yeah.
I was amazed as well in my short amount of time. Because I thought the same thing. You know, of course, I'm not necessarily a spring chicken, but I still was in what I thought was pretty good shape, and was still undefeatable. Or that wasn't, you know, that wasn't going to be me.
Exactly.
That's something that happens to really old people. And yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, well, and just even like the teenagers we get, or, I mean, it's just, it was wild to me of how these things could happen to people that were my age or younger. So going back to your initial question, so I feel like those cases that are really hard for me are, you know, maybe the ones that were a parent or, you know, this completely functioning individual, which everyone is before they get to us. And we just don't get the outcome, you know, maybe cognitively of, they don't remember their family. They can't hardly remember their kids, or, you know, they have, their caregiver cannot care for them anymore. So then, I know you mentioned someone kind of before we started talking of, they now had to go live in a skilled nursing facility. So those cases are hard of like, you know, we didn't get them back to where they were before, to where they can continue life as they knew it in some form or fashion, that their world just completely did a 180.
Yeah.
So I feel like those are hard as when, because you do take it personally in the sense of like, did I do everything I could?
Right.
And so when you feel like maybe you didn't, or that if you would have done something different. So those are always challenging.
Yeah, Nelson said it when we were talking last week, that he personally feels that's what makes for a better therapist,
For sure.
is that you do have to work on multiple levels where you do have that care, but you also can't like just let it rule your world as well. But it does make you a better therapist. And I think thinking about those things, you don't want to take your work home with you all the time, but with him, he came back with some cool ideas sometimes. He said they hit him, but sometimes in the middle of the night, it's like, hey, that's what I need to do. Well, that's cool, And I think that's kind of that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing and asking y'all questions and having you come on, because I don't think people realize, first of all, how important what you do is, and then what it takes to do what you do. Y'all make light of it. I know it's your job, and y'all, for the most part, very humble people. Yeah. And I respect the hell out of that.
Thank you.
Really do. But it's not, I want to shine a light on it because it is so, so important. And another thing I always say is it's not kind of like if you're going to need it. Eventually, most people end up having some kind of therapy unless you just have this really awesome, healthy, live till you die kind of life. Yeah. It doesn't happen very often, or some tragedy happens and takes it all at once. Yeah. So anyways, I kind of got off on a tangent.
I know. I said sorry. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. No. Okay. Well, that makes sense as far as the hard cases. And usually I'm sure that's the ones we're just kind of left wanting.
Yeah. Well, and two, so the cognitive component is one type of case, but I mentioned maybe a second one that's always really hard for me, and I don't think I've mentioned it yet talking to you, is our patients with like aphasia or apraxia. So aphasia would be trouble communicating, a language deficit after a neurological injury. So I feel like that might be more like traditional speech therapy as what people like think about speech therapy. But like, I just think about, I cannot imagine like waking up tomorrow and then not being able to say a single word for the rest of my life, which is where we come in and try not to make that the case. But, I've had some really severe aphasia and apraxia diagnoses throughout the years, and those cases are always hard when they leave you. And yes, you've given strategies, and maybe they now have a speech generating device that helps them communicate, but to know that they will never be able, or not at the time when they leave you, that they are unable to communicate the way they were hoping or did, because I've had some that we've tried everything, and yes, aspects have improved and they are able to communicate better, but as far as what you would kind of consider your typical way of talking, that's just not what happened. And so those cases are always hard of just like, okay, it's time for you to discharge because of A, B, or C, and they're just not where they were, or
which we've
where
talked
you're
a lot
hoping
about
for.
the A, B, or C's and why most people get discharged. It's not really, that's just another hard part as well that I know that you have to deal with. I'm not going to beat that today, because I think at this point anybody's been watching the show
yes,
kind of knows how I feel about that. But that's another unfortunate thing, is that there does have to be a time that's over. I realize that at some point some people are kind of probably plateaued, but I really don't believe in that plateau thing anymore. I've seen too many cool things now at this point to believe in that plateau, but that is a testament to your personality again, to toot your horn for you, being a very patient person, because that is, aphasia is one of those deals. I don't know as much about apraxia. Maybe you can expound on that a little bit here in a minute, but I know with aphasia, for me, visiting with people has taught me a whole nother level of patience. And I think it requires a whole lot of patience to actually have forward progression in that, to get somewhere with that. Yeah. Nobody wants you don't want anybody talking over you or putting words in your mouth when right here, you know what word you're trying to say. It's just not coming out. It's so, frustrating.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So people should be very thankful. Those little things like that, you just overlook. Mom was swallowing, and how important it was, how much of a social aspect of life eating was, and then not being able to do that was huge for me.
Yeah.
And then I put that back in the perspective of what if I couldn't communicate and see it that way? That's a huge aspect of socialization too. So,
Yes. So.
Well, yeah, I commend you for being that person and that warrior in that battle for those people and being the person that they need at the time that they need it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what is apraxia? I haven't studied on that as much.
So a lot of times it co-occurs with aphasia. So it's more the motor planning aspect of it. And from a physical therapy standpoint, you can have like limb apraxia. So it doesn't just have to be like verbal apraxia that a person has, but it's more like I said, the motor planning. So like your brain telling your mouth how to move, so to speak.
Oh.
So, you might see a lot of like effortful speech of like, okay, if I'm trying to get them to make a B sound, and I mean, they are trying everything in their power to get their mouth to put their lips together to make that B sound, but like just their brain is not making their muscles move like they should. And so, like I said, a lot of times that can co-occur with the aphasia, and sometimes the aphasia is worse, sometimes the apraxia is worse. So you got to kind of tease out the two, but they both definitely can impact communication. And so I think some of the worst cases I've had is where the apraxia is so severe, so that motor planning aspect of it.
Right.
So just an added challenge in what we get to work with.
Well, I'm sure you see the frustration too, especially it sounds like with apraxia, that would be a very frustrating thing.
Yes.
All of it's frustrating when you can't do something that you were able to do yesterday and you woke up today in a different world.
Yes.
But I can imagine apraxia is even more frustrating.
Well, and the type of aphasia that it commonly occurs with, which there's nothing black and white when it comes to the brain.
That's right.
So commonly the type of aphasia it occurs with is when their understanding is still very much intact. And so that's just kind of another layer of like, they're 100% understanding what's going on, but man, I just can't get my mouth to move like I want it to.
Right.
Which, I mean, obviously I don't have apraxia or aphasia, but goodness, I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
I think it's just the deficits. All of them are hard. But I was thinking this morning, waking up. I always say it, and I'll say it again today because I feel like it's important for everybody. I thank God for another breath and another day.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that, you overlook the simple things in life, and I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
That people just take things for granted. I did, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But I know what I was thinking. I think this morning I was just thinking about not being able to talk. I mentioned it when I was talking to Nelson that I'd seen in a story about somebody that had learned how to communicate with their eyes, and that's all they had. They couldn't use their whole body, any of their body. They were paralyzed, from the neck down. And, or I guess it was more than that. I mean, they were completely, but they were able to communicate with their eyes. Yeah. And once they figured that out, it was very inspirational to think about the things that they said and the way they looked at life, and the fact that there was still an appreciation for life when that's all that they had left. So there's times when I feel like the things that I'm dealing with still to today are heavy, and they are. I wouldn't take away from anybody on any level that's had a change in their life, but it's also when someone that can only communicate with their eyes, and that's what they got. I mean, that means not being able to move. I mean, not being able to move anything.
Yeah.
Should be very thankful. And if that person can be thankful, then we can all be thankful for something.
Exactly.
And I know life is what it is. Even as simple as having a bad day. We all have bad days.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll let that bad day just turn into a really bad day, And I'm sure for you, and I'm sure for you, you still have a bad day, but you do work with people that are having a lot worse days.
Exactly.
Most of the time, it probably does. Does it give you more of an appreciation
well,
for
just
life?
Perspective too.
Yeah.
You know, I had a bad day because I locked my keys in my car, but like in the grand scheme of things, that is nothing compared to what a lot of people are dealing with, and the ones that I'm dealing with every day.
Right.
So I keep that into perspective too, of, you know, what am I considering bad compared to the patient I'm working with today can't even say their own name.
Right. Do you find it slows you down a little bit too? And when I say slows you down, I don't mean like holding you down slows you down. Just slows down your processing of things in general, life, and the way because life can move really fast. I found that for me, I moved through it really quick until I had the stroke. Now I have slowed down, and I found that that slowdown wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I was missing a whole lot. So do you find yourself slowing down some to just stop, smell the roses, so to speak? Kind of. I mean, I hate to use that analogy, but
Well, no, I mean, it's funny that you use the smell the roses analogy, because, you know, I do like flowers, and the springtime I look, oh yes, what I'm wearing today. But like, I mean, I feel like part of my personality is I've always been one, like, you know, I'm a lover of the sunsets and the sunrises, and, you know, driving to work every day, I get to look at the sunrise, and, you know, I've always appreciated those smaller things that you're talking about. So yes, it's cliche to stop and smell the roses, but, you know, I do feel like I've always been kind of decent at that, but having this job and working in this setting for sure just kind of solidifies that concept and the importance of it, because we do get to hear over and over again of, man, you know, if I took life for granted, or, you know, I thought this was bad, but now look at where I am. So hearing that reflection out loud from people that are processing through kind of like what you're saying of living one way and then now kind of realizing the importance of life, or just how quickly it can change. So yeah, I do definitely think that has impacted in kind of how I live day to day.
Right. So have you had any, on the other end of that, you know, on the more, I guess, more positive side of it, since we're talking about stopping and smelling the roses, what kind of cases have you had where you just, you know, went home with a big smile on your face and you're like, yeah, we did it that time. You know, that really, really came through, worked out this time. Yeah.
So I think going back to kind of that aphasia diagnosis, when you ask that question, that's kind of naturally where my head goes to, because it's just such a big win. And what I think of is I had a patient that had no words. And one of his first words was my name. And so, I mean, I think I'll remember that for the rest of forever, because, I mean, I just always think about that moment. And not that him saying my name was his success story, but just the outcome.
Micro win.
Yes. And just to kind of, like I was saying, more the category of successful cases, as I just think of all my patients and their communication, where we started not being able to say anything, that they relied on their caregiver during their evaluation to tell me all the details, to where, you know, by the time they end now, we're able to have that somewhat of a conversation, and they can express their wants, needs, and ideas. So of course, over the years, I've had many of those, and those are always, you know, some of the top of my list of what I would consider a win, is when what we hoped happened. Right.
And that, I'm sure, having those wins for you, it makes it that much easier to go back to what is sometimes a hard situation.
Yes. The wins are what keep you moving, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, you know, a lot of people will work their whole lives and do things to make a living and never experience what that feels like. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
To be able to do that day in, day out. And I really feel like, and I said this a lot too, anything that's like worth having is not easily attained. Yeah. So, you know, it's a give or take thing. That's probably one of the most fulfilling things I do when I go up there and try to help somebody or walk with them from their initial diagnosis, going through the inpatient program, and I may even see them before they even get there. I mean, I really try to get people, if I meet somebody in the hospital, I'm going to push for them to go to that facility where you guys are at, because I
love it.
I think it's one of the best places
in
Texas. And it's known. You can look it up. I mean, that place is one known.
Yeah.
You know, it's a small building. I would have never known about it in my life if I hadn't had a stroke. But
I
I'm
didn't
so
know about it
blessed
either
that
until I
ended up
started
there.
working there. Yeah.
But like I was saying, it's probably one of the most challenging, spiritually and emotionally challenging things I've ever done in my life. But it's also it is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And it's awesome to be with somebody from initial diagnosis all the way till they ring that bell or hit that gong, you know, whatever gong at the end of the
At the end of their little walk they do.
yeah, doing the walk. You know, that is really cool. I'm sitting there. First of all, I remember what that day felt like for me, but to be able to see that, you know, with somebody else and go through that experience, and then be with them, you know, what I hope is going to be for the rest of their lives, just as a support person, help and friend, and, you know, let's go help some more people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something pretty unique, pretty cool about that community. And maybe it's that facility. I don't know what it is, but, you know, there is this built-in thing with us at the Broken Road Project, and anybody that's helping us now, and anybody that we've mentored or that is with us, is they have a want, and almost anybody that's been through, even people that are not from here, it's just they want to help. So, you know, I think it's a given thing whenever you have a certain amount of success and rise above some of the deficits that you want to try to help others. And I think that's probably one of the best things that came out of it for me, you know.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to you too, because, you know, I was thinking about this, you know, a lot of patients, when you're in kind of our bubble, you know, everyone like, oh gosh, like I'm scared to leave. I never want to leave. I mean, they do, but, you know, you develop friendships and it becomes a safe place. And so when it comes time to leave, I think everyone is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to come back and visit and I'm going to do all these things, which they get busy with life. And I mean, that's our goal, right? We worked up all these months to get them back to life. So, you know, I'm just giving a shout out to you of, you know, you got back to life, but you're doing it in a way now that serves where you came from, and are giving back to us. And it's great to have you as a resource for our patients. So I definitely appreciate, you know, everything that you're doing, and it doesn't go unnoticed for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, like I was telling you before, it's I don't feel like I can do anything else. It's like I've tried to do other things, and this is the mission that I was given, and my life's dedicated to it. I want to help other people, and, you know, I'm a little bit, not that I couldn't go back to school, but I mean, y'all have pushed me to want to research and read and learn, and the fact that I can read, and the diplopia is gone, you know, and Dr. Connolly's coming on soon. That'll be an interesting conversation, but, you know, that's another thing I don't mention a whole lot, but having double vision was huge. So being able to overcome all those things and read, now all I want to do is spend my time learning more and helping others. So I may not be I may not be a therapist, but I sure can be support, and I want to help y'all. Yeah. Well, man, it's so important. So thank you.
Lucky to have
you. Thank you for your kind words on that. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's why I was saved. That's why I'm here, I believe. So, and I really think, you know, I hope I'm just going to be a small drop in the bucket, but I hope that River carries the torch, you know, further down the line. And I hope this is a continued thing. And I hope we can shine a spotlight in an area that is very ignored. And then I think it is easier. This is going to the point you said that people don't come back. It would be a lot easier for me to just move on and go back to what I was doing in some ways and ignore what happened, because the memory and the trauma that comes along with that, and the PTSD and the worry of having another stroke, and all of those things are real. Just had a friend yesterday that got into it for his first panic attack, you know, and was worried just from the, you know, your body changes and things change and your brain changes. I mean, it's an injury that we carry. And I was fortunate to be able to walk him through that and just say, hey, man, it's just, you're basically building one thing on top of another, but you're probably all right. And just check your blood pressure, breathe. Your body's changed.
Well, I think to your point too, I know we've talked a lot about me as a therapist, but my grandpa actually died from a stroke in 2020. So right in the middle of COVID. So to your point of people, like kind of the trauma response of when you come back to day neuro, I mean, I hope we have positive memories there, but I mean, you do go through a lot while you're with us. So like, I just remember that firsthand of my grandpa was at Medical City in downtown Fort Worth. And, man, this is where the tears are going to come. We couldn't go to the hospital, so we had to say goodbye to him in a parking lot, over FaceTime. And so like I drove past that parking lot, I don't know, a year or two later, and I wasn't even expecting it, but I was like, oh my goodness, like that's where I had to say goodbye to my grandpa. No, thank you. I'll pull it together.
It's okay.
But, I think that's something you don't think about, that I haven't thought about of, maybe why people don't come back to see us is because it is just a lot of emotions to, come back just to relive, and hopefully they can kind of close that door and keep moving on, which is what we hope for as a therapist, to get back to everything. But yeah, just kind of a personal example of, how I definitely relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sorry for your loss in that time. And I know that's, golly, that time took a lot from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think it changed our society as a whole, and calloused a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because of that distance, that's a tough thing. So I'm sorry that you had to experience that during that time. I don't think it would have been easy any time, but that way is awful.
Well, I mean, not trying to open up a whole nother can of worms, but it was good as a therapist too, in the sense of, because I was working on the inside at that point too, not at that hospital, but, so I was the one at the window with my little elderly patients in the nursing home, talking to their loved ones through the window. Or, I'm sure this is frowned upon, but, I would give caregivers my personal number when I worked in inpatient, because they wanted to talk to their wife or whatever. And yes, it's so hard to get through the hospital phone to talk to. So, I would give Mr. So-and-so my phone number, and I'd be like, call me, and when I'm in there, you can talk to your wife.
Wow, that's special.
But so I got to see both sides of it, because I was working it, but then also as a loved one with someone going through a medical event, being on the outside was just rough. So.
Well, those people were very blessed to have you in their corner, frowned on or not.
Yeah.
It's, corporate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm writing some things, and I personally I don't really have any skin in the game, so I can say what I want.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to I'll throw you under the bus on that. I'll wait till I have another survivor in here to just harp on that.
Yeah.
But that's special that you were able to do that. So, I think God used you in that time in a way that people really needed. And it says a whole lot about who you are too. That's really awesome. I think going back to it, I just realized it the other day too, even with me, there's people that and they probably watch the podcast and they'll know who they are. But, I had a genuine want to walk alongside you and help you and be your friend and all that, whether we knew each other before or after. And typically it's all new people that I know. But it is genuine, and I don't think people are used to that. And a lot of times now I'm starting to see that in order for some people, not everybody, but some people, for them to move forward, they almost have to leave me behind, or things like day neuro behind, and they don't go back because that memory puts them back in that spot. Yeah. And I don't think that's a good way personally to grow. I think that you grow through your experiences and remembering those and learning from them. But I also can empathize and understand when you want to act like that never happened. Yeah. I think that when you do that, you're kind of asking for something else to come down the line. It's the same as compartmentalizing or any of those things, which I think I discussed that even with Amanda, that, And she had a good way of breaking that down, but you got to be super careful about that. You know, I got friends that are first responders. I got friends that are veterans. You got to be careful about compartmentalizing things too deep because it will resurface eventually. So.
Yeah.
Either way, that's kind of why I think people don't come back,
Yeah.
and why I even see distance put between me is because I that's what I assume is it's just too hard to face that reality.
Yeah, and
sometimes
I definitely could understand both sides of it for sure. Not that one way is right or not, but I understand. Even though we always say come back to visit during our graduation speeches, we know we are most likely never going to see this person again.
Well, I hope since I've graduated, you've seen a lot of people come back. I mean, you know, it was funny when I first started doing it and I'd start inviting people like, hey, I'm going to go up here to this graduation.
Yeah.
Like, can we do that? I said, I don't know, but we'll get kicked out.
But
I mean, we're just going to get kicked out or not.
Yeah.
I mean, we show up and they say, you know, you can't be here. And fortunately, nothing's been stopped at this point on that. So.
Well, we're always glad to see y'all. So.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. And I think it's really, I think it's a great point of therapy, what we're doing after you leave Day Neuro. You know, that's the other thing that's not spoken about is how many people drop off the map whenever they leave that facility. That's another thing. It's just like you don't realize how much help and how much support you're getting when you're in the middle of it compared to when you get home.
Which is always our hope and dream that we've prepared you with the necessary tools and but you know, life is unpredictable, so as much as we educate or practice or whatever, you know, we can't think of every single situation or something to make your continued life as easy as it's going to be, but hopefully we prepare you well enough.
I think y'all do a great job for the constraints that you're put under and the time and the fact that everything revolves around, and like I said, we're not going to get down that, but it all
don't say the I word.
Yes, but you know, I think y'all do a great job in under the constraints.
Yeah.
I even taking the constraints out, y'all do a great job, but you do have a certain amount of time you got to get things done in. So it's amazing. So amazing. I just can't even tell you how cool it is to see some of the stories, including my own, in a short amount of time. You know, when I look back, one of the hardest things I did, and I didn't even do the video. I think Callie, I'm pretty sure she helped me put it all together because I sat behind that desk multiple times trying to put all together the video and pictures of me going through my therapy process, and I had a hard time doing it. It was just, you can smell the smells and hear the sounds, and just that puts you right back in that moment. But it's pretty awesome at the same time if you watch that and fast forward and realize that was only a couple months of my life that happened in, and how, you know, I went from, when I got to Day Neuro, I went from having 2 walking sticks to I walked out of that facility. It's amazing. I learned a lot about myself in that time too, specifically from my speech therapist. You
Shout out Heather.
Shout out to Heather in that time. You know, I thought I had it together a lot more than I did. It's weird how you inside you still feel like the same person, but outside you are different. Yeah. It takes a minute to realize that.
And I think that's kind of the concept of holding space is so important during those moments of self-reflection and figuring out kind of what your new normal is for the minute. And, you know, hopefully we can continue to progress so that normal doesn't become your reality for forever. Even if your new normal isn't or even if your current state isn't where you used to be, your new normal is a point where you can be safe and independent and get back to something, whether that be what you were doing or like you have a whole new thing that you've started doing since that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is definitely a lot different than what I was doing before. Not everybody's going to be able to do this, but I sure encourage anybody to reach out to me in the Broken Road Project. I make myself very available as much as I can. It wears me out on days, and some people ask me, you know, how do you do that? And I believe that Luke and I were just talking about the other day. God gave me another breath in my lungs, and basically I can rest when I finally die, maybe eventually.
Yeah.
That's a cliche also, but the reality is that I feel like I'm going to have the strength I need, and I will make a way through it. I didn't sleep that well last night. I feel way better right now.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious, wondering how I was going to do today, but I feel pretty good now.
Okay.
So I just think you get energy, and I encourage anybody, again, like I said, I make myself very available. I want people to know once they've gone past the day neuro and gone past that part of the therapy journey, that the journey's not over, and that there's still hope and there's things to do, and we're hoping this year we're going to do quite a few events, and I think the first one is going to be at Chicken and Pickle. We're going to actually have a meeting with them soon. I'm working on setting up that, but we've already been discussing back and forth, and very thankful to Taylor Nichols for putting us together with them. So it'll be an adaptive sports type get together. Anybody will be able to play. And we're hoping that you guys can come as therapists as well.
Yeah.
We'll be invited, and that way we have that support role as well. And then we're going to actually have, hopefully, donors that have donated in the past, new donors, and basically a big fundraising event there will be the first one, hopefully, there at
awesome.
Chicken Pickle. So I'm looking forward to that, among other ones this year. And that's the other part of what we're doing is my hope. My vision for the Broken Road Project is that it is built around a volunteer base that is survivors and their caregivers. That way, when we are trying to help others, we are coming from a place of understanding. And I think, that doesn't take away from you guys. I think you guys, I know you get that both ways. It's like, well, it's easy for you to say, that Nelson and I talked about that because you're fine. But you're still right there holding space with them. I mean, that's the whole thing. Y'all are still doing great work too. So don't ever let anybody tell you anything different than that. And I'm really looking forward to this year coming, and I hope we can do more stuff with y'all. And I'm looking forward to seeing you more.
Yeah,
Day
of course.
Just going up there and doing the thing, and
So you know where to find me.
Do what you do.
Yeah.
So we're kind of to that point of the interview. I ask everybody. Some people jump ahead. You haven't today.
Uh-oh.
So how about any words of wisdom, a little bit of advice for anybody, really? I mean, specifically caregivers or somebody overcoming what we deal with in neurotrauma, but I think that this can go hand in hand for people in life in general. So I know you got something.
Well, I'm glad you went the caregiver route, because that was where my head kind of jumped to initially.
Okay.
And I think it's because of maybe like my interactions with caregivers, especially with my patients with aphasia. Because especially like, at family conference, they'll be like, what can we do at home? Or what should I be telling them at home? And so for caregivers, I feel like just remembering kind of who you were to the person before the injury, the diagnosis, whatever, because you don't want to lose that in the midst of now being a caregiver. So while, yes, I would love if you practiced your confrontational naming of functional items at home, I also want you to be a husband and a wife, or whatever your relationship is, because I feel like it is so easy to put your hat on of, okay, what is this medication doing? What do we do at home? What do I do to exercise our leg? And that relationship is so tested during that time just because of everything that's going on. So a lot of times that is the advice I give is like, we're doing 6 hours of stuff here every single day. So like when they get home, yes, you can sprinkle in these strategies, but just be who you are, because that is something I can't do.
And love's super important thing. I think that, caregivers, that's what they're there for, and I don't even think that they realize. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think they realize even how much important that role is in recovery.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to get all the medicines and all of that other stuff is a necessary evil. as a survivor myself, I can tell you that just being loved on is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, you've got a good one too. I'll say.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime Amber's come up to Day Neuro, I know we appreciate her
Yeah.
presence just as much. So yeah, but I mean, I feel like just that concept is so important for a person's recovery.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it, and thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
It went just how I expected to.
Oh, good.
You're a special person. It's
Oh,
really
I appreciate
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. I guess subscribe if you like the content. I always say that. And, give us a like, and we'll do this again.
Yeah,
Maybe you can
sounds
come on
great.
again next year.
Count me in.
All right, cool.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yes.
I'll do my best one day at a time on the broken road, on a broken road.